evening, everyone. Welcome to Pyware Night School. Tonight we're going to be touching base on Gimp. This is going to be a little slower paced session tonight. I wanted to make sure that everybody's questions are answered. I know a lot of people who are using Gimp are not familiar with it. So I want to kind of take it slow and make sure that we get all the questions answered just about using Gimp in general. So before we get started, can I get anybody to post any questions they'd like to specifically get covered? And we can kind of start with those, and I'll be doing a overview of the entire Gimp software as well, just top to bottom. I'm going to go ahead and share a couple of files. If you were with us on Friday of last week, you'll have gotten these files as well. But I'm going to share these so that you have them. And for those watching the replay, I'll make sure that we post links in the YouTube link as well. Let's see, one more, uniform, and then templates. I hope everyone's doing well tonight. All right. We've got those handouts going out here. Awesome. All right. Let's take a look here. Let's start up our Gimp here. All right, can everybody see everything in my Gimp window here? So what we have here, we've got our tools here. The version that I have is 2.10.4. I think the most current one is 2.10.18. You can download Gimp directly if you do not have it already from www.gimp.org. All right. So I'm going to start out with the different sections of Gimp that we're going to be working with. We've got our tools listed here. We've got information for the actual active tool listed right here. So as you can see, if I choose a different tool, such as my paintbrush, it gives us all the different functionalities that we have, such as the hardness, which is going to be how solid the dot is. So if you got it solid in the center, if it's 50% hardness, as it goes towards the edge, it's going to be a little less opaque there. And as you can see, here's your hardness. You can increase the hardness here. Come on now. If I can get it to work with me. There we go. And we got our hardness level. So hardness is going to, at 100, will give us a more solid. Let me go ahead and pull up our template. I'm going to go ahead and open up our uniform template. Okay. Perfect. Okay, let's hide our layers here. We're going to add a new layer. New layer, new uniform. I can type today. Okay, so with my paintbrush, I can change our size. As you can see, I've got a dotted outline of what the dot of the size looks like. So this is at a 100% hardness. If I wanted to pull that back down, let's say back to 50 where we were, As you can see, if I click there, this is solid hardness all the way out to the edge, and this is going to be a feathered to the edge. It's important to understand that when you're going in and making any fine-tune revisions to your fabric, if you wanted to trace things in there by hand instead of just bucket filling. Okay. So, by default, when you open up the uniform, you're going to have the option of layers. Each layer is labeled. You've got your section labels, you've got your overlay that is going to show your outlines of where everything is. Okay, you've got a section that includes different ethnicities, so you can toggle those on and off to save out different ethnicities. You have the cloth texture overlay. So when let's pull this off. Ooh, that one overlays. Okay, so right now when I have a uniform texture here, I can toggle the cloth texture off. As you can see here, it adds the actual texture, so it looks kind of like a piece of cloth here. You can turn that on and off if you wanted it just to be a bright color, bright colors in your uniform. You can turn that off and it won't show any texture for you. I'm going to trash a couple of these. Okay. Awesome. Let's get rid of that. Okay. So we have our layers here. These layers here are uniforms that have already been created. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to create a new layer. So do start scratch. We're going to select our new layer option right here. Okay, it's going to give you a new layer palette. And let's say Pyware University. And this can be whatever your school name is. Okay, we're just going to leave everything else the same. We want the mode to be normal because we want it just to be a color. Okay, opacity is 100%. Height and width is 1024 because that's the entire size of the texture that we have here. And we want it to be transparent by default. So we've got that transparency listed here. I'm going to say okay. So now I have my Pyware University layer. So anytime that I'm going to be painting or anything like that, I'm going to be painting on this layer. All right. Okay, let's take a look around the rest of the software here. In your lower right-hand corner, you're going to see your layers option. If you do not see this, you can actually turn it on in Windows under Dockable Dialogues and Layers. So this is very important. You'll need to make sure that is visible. The other one that you're going to need is paths. Okay, it's going to show paths that we've created just for easily accessing different sections. Okay, and that can also be turned off or on if you cannot find it under Windows, Dockable Dialogues, and Paths. Okay, other one that you're going to need to have is your colors. Okay, it should be popping up here. That gives you the ability to select whatever color you want. It's going to have that remembered here. If you have RGB numbers, we can select them here. You have your CMYK, and let's see here. All right. All right. Let's reset that. I do not want CMYK, RGB. Perfect. that. Okay. Make sure all my stuff is saved. Perfect. Okay. So now that we've got all of our panels up that we need, we can start trying to figure out what we want for. I really want to know why my color palette has changed. Take two. I've never had that happen to me before. So on the, all right, Jerry, on the right side, it should be, there we go. Okay, so on the right side, you're going to have your colors, your brushes, which is important. And then below that, you're going to have layers, at least layers and paths. Okay, those are the things that we want to have open when we are working on our file, because you'll need to be jumping around in that area. The tools that we're going to utilize typically, or when I do it, I'll use my paintbrush tool. I'll use my fuzzy select tool or my magic wand, and I'll also use our paint bucket fill tool right here. Those are the primary ones that I use. Okay, so you do not have a layers. If you do not see layers, then you need to enable that in Windows, dockable dialogues, and layers. But you will need layers, and I would suggest paths as well. Okay. All right. So if you saw the session on Friday, Jesse made up a new template that you can go through and get a little more advanced in creation of your uniforms. I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. What I want to do is I want to just come in here and kind of give you the quick version and not as in depth if you're wanting just to make quick changes to your uniform. And just make quick global changes. Okay, so right here, you're going to see our paths. I'm going to go ahead and toggle over to paths here. And you can toggle on the visibility of each of these paths so you can see what these are. So these top few are sashes, and then you've got pinstripes on your arms, for your gauntlets, just sections for the front. So what I want to do is I want to scroll down here, and I'm just going to start out with legs. Okay. What I want to do is I want to make this path a selection. I'm going to select this option here, path to selection. So if you see now, I'll have my running ants dotted outline for this particular path. Okay, so now what I can do is I can come in. I want to make sure I have my Pyware University or my uniform layer selected. I'm going to select my paint bucket tool, and I'm going to select my color. I want to have black pants. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click in that area anywhere inside of the dotted lines, and that's going to fill that entire area with black. Okay, and just very simple to get it up and running. Okay, so then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to select. I'm going to choose none, or you can use the shortcut Control-Shift-A on Windows. I'm not quite sure what it is for Mac. As you can see now, my selection is off. I'm going to come back to my paths window. Okay, and I want to do my upper torso. Let's say the front of my uniform is one color and it's the same color on my arms, but the back is a different color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my layer that is upper torso and front with my arms. I'm going to do my paths to selection. Okay, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my new color. Let's do, okay, get our color. I'm going to do my bucket fill. All right, so now I have my uniform front. Okay, and now I'm going to come over here, back to my layer, or my paths. I'm going to select my torso back. Okay, and let's say we have a white back. So I'm going to bucket fill this. And since this already had color in it, I'm going to have to bucket fill back over those two. Okay. And now I'm going to come in and locate my feet. Where did my feet go? All right. On my black, I'm going to make sure my selection is off so I can select my feet. I'm going to fill my feet. Okay. And now I've got just the generic colors here for my uniform. Very simplistic, easy to do, um, easy way of making changes. Okay. Do we have any questions on just making quick color changes in Gimp for our uniform? Okay. And I'm going to get Pyware up here, and then we can load it to see what it looks like. And then we can go in and start adding a few different things. Okay. Is there any intricacies that you'd like to see created on this? I'll go in and show adding some gauntlets and a sash here momentarily. And those are fairly easy because we do have that option here. So I'm going to do a save as. I'm going to do an export because I'm going to export as a PNG. Pyware University. Uniform 1. Documents. Fabrics. Perfect. Export it here as my PNG. Okay. And let's jump over to 3D momentarily. Okay. Let's get you toggled over here so we can see that. Okay, let's look here. How do we add symbols and letters? We'll take a look at that. And we'll, okay. Let's jump over to Pyware just so we can see our uniform that we just did. Okay, so now I am in my drill file. Okay. And I'm going to my document options. I'm going to my real view, select my male marcher. Okay, in my fabric, I'm going to look for my Pyware University 1. Okay, so now I have my uniform. I've got my red front and white back. So we have that listed there. Let's jump back over here to Gimp, and we can start answering those questions. And see, the first question we have, go over swapping between the brush and the bucket. So to swap tools, you just come over to your tool palette and you can choose your brush tool or you can choose your bucket tool. You just simply click on that and it's going to toggle you between the two. If I were to come in and adjust my brush, I can come in and select it, and then I could paint, should be painting. Make sure I don't have any selections. Select none. Okay, so when I paint, it's going to allow me to paint directly onto the uniform. Okay, and that's how you switch between the two tools. You see no tools on the left. So if you do not see your tools, what you need to do is you need to go to Windows, Dockable Dialogues, and actually no, is it Toolbox? Select Toolbox. And that should bring up your toolbox here, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And that should bring up all of your tools. Okay, next question. I've got Ken, how do we add symbols and letters? Okay, so what you can do is two options. Either you can take your text tool and locate a font that you want. All right, let's say we have a script. Okay, gotta have a P here. Okay, so what that's going to be is it's going to put that script on there. And I can use my move tool to undo. My move tool, I want to move my active layer. Okay. So I've got my layer that I have my P on. Let's say I want to line that up in the center of the chest. So here's our center chest line. And then I would like to rotate that to have it show up. I'm going to my rotation function. There we go. Select my rotate. Okay, so I'm going to rotate it to be up and down. And then I can shift it up. So now I have the P on the chest of the uniform, and I can export that out. Okay. And if you wanted to add a different type of symbol, you can also grab in a piece of art. So let me look for just a real quick clip art. Block M. Okay, and I'm just doing a quick Google search, or if you have any logos that you want to put on, let's download this one. Okay, save image. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to drag the image from my desktop. Let me pull this up so you can see what I'm doing. Share my whole screen. Okay, so I'm going to drag my whole image that I just downloaded onto the Gimp window. Okay, so now that will drop this in. Okay, and now I have my image in. On my uniform. I can come in and I'm going to use my magic wand because I don't want the white background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my magic wand. I'm going to hold my shift key and I'm going to click on those areas. Okay, and I'm going to delete those. So now I have my M here. Okay, and let's say I wanted to resize that. That is my scale tool here. Okay, I can scale it if I like that. Oop. I need to deselect that. Okay. I'm going to grab my scale tool. I can now scale my entire M. Okay. I can reposition it. So now I have my M here scaled, and I can then rotate it to make sure I have it into position. And this is how we would add symbols or anything that is not a text font. So now that I have this listed here, it's just on top of my Pyware University. So we're just layering this here. And now I can save that out as a new uniform. Okay. So let's see here. Is it possible, Zach has a question, is it possible to take an image from a uniform, cut it like you would a flag and overlay it? Not really, because the way the uniform wraps, it won't wrap very well. What you can do is take segments of it. So if you have a drawing from your uniform company, you can actually come in and kind of draw that out. Or if you have them send you swatches, if you would, of the texture, you can actually take a picture of those or just copy it and then place it just like I placed the M, and you can stretch it over the areas that have the different colors. And then you can do that for each segment of the arm or wherever that texture might be. Let's see. Okay, Doug has a question about if you can import a pattern. You can import a pattern. What that's back to Google image search, or if you have the pattern, let's say tie-dye pattern, you would need to have a texture that you want. So if you're having someone print those, they normally can send you a sample of that actual texture, and then you can just drop that directly in. So let's see, I've got my tie-dye texture. Let's see here. Okay. I have a tie-dye texture. I'm going to just drag in here. Okay. Convert it. Okay, so here's my tie-dye texture. And what I can do is I have it drag over the entire thing. Let's say I just wanted to have this over one of the arms. I'm going to scale it down to the size I want. Okay. Shift this over my arm. Let's say this is the section of the texture I want. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my paths. I'm going to select my arm. I'm going to grab the pathways. Okay. Then I want to grab the inverse. I'm going to invert my selection. Okay, so that's going to select everything except for my arms. And then I want to make sure I am on my tie-dye texture. I'm going to delete it. As you can see now, I have just the tie-dyed section on my arm. So that gives me the ability to overlay my printed texture on the arm itself. Okay, let's take a look at the next section. Okay, so Zach has a question about you have a uniform that changes sleeves and the centerpiece yearly. So depending on what you have, depends on how you're going about it. If you have printed textures such as this, if you can isolate just the center chest piece, you can overlay that on the center just as I did as the arm, and then change the arms if those are textures as well. And Dan has a question on how to create paths not on the list. So paths are created using your pen tool. Let me deselect this, none. Go to my paths. Let's say I'm going to create a new path. Okay, and you can name it whatever path name you want. Pyware path name. Okay, you can just list it wherever you want in the order here. I'm going to my pen tool or my paths tool. So I click on my paths tool. I'm going to design a path. So now what I do is I can click points to create my path. Okay, if I do just straight points, it's going to be straight lines. I can, let's see, I'm going to delete. While I'm adding paths, if I click and drag, that's going to allow it to become a Bezier curve point. Okay. I can come over here and choose my edit, and I can add Bezier curve points to this. If you hold your shift key on that, you can actually shift both of them at the same time so you can create the pathway that you want. Okay, let's say I'm going from here to here. Oh, if I remember, how do I complete it? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Edit my paths, shift. Delete this back. Okay. So let us say I want to create a section where I'm going to have just a portion of the chest. I want to have the left side of the chest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my path or turn on my path tool. I'm going to draw a path line down the front of the chest over and just kind of up. So I'm taking it out of this. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right, so that's our new path here. Our name path, I can then select it to go to path to selection. Go to my layers, go to my uniform layer. Let's say I wanted the front right side to be white. So I'm going to change that to white. Now I can come back in with my bucket fill and fill that section. Okay, so that's how you can do a section. You're creating a path to make a section of your uniform a different color if you're not having the same color in the entire area. Okay. James, that should cover your answers there. Doug, we have your answer taken care of about the perfect. Okay. Are there any questions? I know that was kind of quick going through a few things. Anything that we'd like to recover since that was fairly quick? I want to make sure that we take care of everything for everybody. Let's see. Is there anything else that we can go through? Let's add a couple of gauntlet things here. Let's come back to our paths. So let's say we have a different color collar. Let's say we have a gray collar. I'm going to select my top section of my gray collar, and then I'm going to fill that section with my bucket fill. Okay, and as you can see here, I have a couple of different lines that are not taken care of just from the colors that I had. So what I can do is I can come in and touch that up with my paintbrush tool. And when I paint through here, it's only going to paint within that selection area that we have set. Okay, so I can just clean that up. Anything that is not looking good here. Now I have my gray color. Let's come in and let's do our sash. Okay, let's do a lighter gray sash. And then I can do my bucket fill. And since I'm overlaying on some colors, I'll do this. Okay, so now I have my gray sash. Okay. All right, so now we have our gray sash. And Jerry, you say when you're picking something, it's not selecting what you pick. What tool are you picking it with? Need to know what you're trying to select on the screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this out now. I'm going to export it again as a PNG file. Power University Fabric 2. Export that. Okay. Let me swap back over to 3D real quick. Okay, when you pick something, okay, so what you need to do is you need to go to the layer. You need to go to your arms. And you can even right click on that if you're having trouble with the buttons at the bottom. You can right click on that path layer and choose path to selection. And that's going to give you your dotted lines around the selection. I'm sorry, around the path. So you can edit just that. And basically what we're doing with the paths and creating a selection is we're limiting it to only drawing in that area. So that keeps you from painting over the chest area or any other sections. So like right now, if I come in here and paint, it's not going to do anything. But if I come over my arm, it will. That's the prime reason of doing that. So you're limited just in the area that you're wanting to modify. Okay, so let us swap back over to 3D and go to our document options, real view preferences, select my Power University 2. All right, so now I have my uniform that has my sash, my two-tone chest plate. Okay, has my sash on the back. I have my back being white, my arms being red. We've got that selected now. Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions on uniforms? I'm going to also touch on flags and things like that right quick to make it give you a full overview. Or any other questions about GIMP in general. I want to make sure that those are answered because once you have a grasp on the application, at least the few tools that you're going to be using, it's going to make your life much, much easier. Okay. So I am going to swap back to GIMP here. And I'm going to go ahead and save my file. I'm going to open up Documents or 3D Fabrics templates. And I'm going to open up my flag template. Okay. So I'm going to have my flag template here. What you're going to see is in your layers section, there's going to be some guides that we have here. So this is the active area. Slightly, I need to adjust that a little bit. This is the active area for our flag. So if you're going to be grabbing any or designing any of your own custom flags, that's going to be the area that you're going to be putting it into. It's even with the top of the pole here. Okay. None. Okay. So what I would do is normally you would have a image from your flag printer. So let's see. Let's grab a flag image. All right. So let's say we have our flag image. Let's say we have a. Let's find a flag image that we can work with here. Okay. Get this image downloaded here. Of course, it's being a little finicky. All right. So I'm going to drag my image in to Gimp directly. Okay, so we have our image here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my custom flag layer is selected here. I'm going to scale my flag to fit in that area. I'm going to lock that ratio. Okay. I'm going to drag that just below that guide. So okay, scale it here. Move it into position. Looks like I scaled it a little bit too large. Pull it back down here. All right. Scale it down. Okay. So now we have our flag image within the boundary that we want. So now what we need to do is we need to pull off the white area. So I'm going to make sure I have my flag selected here. I'm going to grab my magic wand. I'm going to select this area. It's selecting too much of the actual flag here, so I'm going to lower this threshold. The lower you make it, the closer it has to be to the color that you click on. Okay, so now if I click on white, as you can see here, now it's no longer selecting any interior sections. So I'm going to do that, and I can now delete it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in here, and I can come in and use my eraser tool to clean up the edges. I'm going to select nothing, grab my eraser tool right here. Okay, I'm going to have my hardness be 100. Okay, so now when I erase, it's going to erase the entire section that I click on. There's this flag. Let's get rid of that one. Okay, so we're going to come in and we're going to clean up this flag a little bit. Okay, I click here. Okay, what I just did is I clicked here, I held my shift key and I clicked down here and it drew a straight line with the eraser function. Okay. Okay. Just cleaning this up. All right. And now I have my flag inserted into my template. So now what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll do a export as a PNG file. Fabric, let's say Pyware University flag 1. That. .png. Export. Save the defaults. Let's jump back over. And back into 3D. I'm going to go to my document options. I'm going to come down to my flag section. Flag 1, here we go. Select that. Let's find our Pyware University flag. Okay, so now as you can see, where'd my flag go? I have my newly created flag listed in our document options, and now it shows on our flag 1, which is being used in the software. Okay. Any questions on how to create a flag? Or the ability of pasting your flag image into the template itself? Awesome. And you can feel free to freehand draw anything on there, but with all of the assets that you have available when you're getting your flags printed, they normally can send you an image to work with. Or if you're buying flags that are already printed, most of them will have an image on their website that they can send you or you can download, and you can toss that into the template here. Okay. So if no one else has questions about the flags, I'm going to move on, and we're going to look at creating a surface image. I know we had some questions about that. Open my template. I'm going to open my football field surface template. Open that up. Okay, so Craig has a question on how to manipulate the flag rotation if that doesn't come out right. Let me jump back over to here to Gimp so you can see that. Okay, so we have our flag, and what we're going to be modifying, if you need the rotation on this flag, we want to make sure that our flag layer is selected. You can come over to your rotate tool, and then that's where you're going to be able to click and drag the rotation of that flag. Okay, as you can see here, this is some of the image that we did not adjust before. So if that's the case, you may need to come back in and select the section that is not there and delete it. So let's say if this is closer to what we're looking for, now we're able to do it. You're able to rotate it and export that back out. Does that answer your question, Craig? Let's see here. With flipping, or if you want to mirror the image, what you can do is, let's see. There is in Photoshop, there's an option to flip. Let's see here. Okay, so transform on the layer. So you're going to make sure your layer is selected. You're going to come to layer. You're going to go to transform, and you can flip horizontally. Okay, so now you can see that that is flipped to where it's the opposite way. Say we wanted this to be more like so. Okay, and then you just shift that into position. And that's how to flip it horizontally or vertically. As you can see here, you can transform that here, depending on how you need it to happen. And if you want these to be sheer, you can adjust that opacity here. This make sure your layer is selected, and you can change the opacity. Do not go less than 50% because it will be completely gone at that point in the real view. But now we've got about 75, 80% is what you're looking for to have that kind of a sheer fabric so you can see through it. Dan, there is not an XCF template. You can just open up your flag PSD file in your documents. It's documents, Pyware 3D, fabrics, and templates. Gimp can open PSD files. The only reason why we gave you an XCF file for the others is some of the layer texture and functions do not transfer over very well from Photoshop to Gimp. So we needed to apply those and give you a direct XCF file. All I did is I opened the PSD files right now, and that's what we're editing for the flags and will be for the surface. Okay. jump over to our surface. Let's actually open the other one that is quite modified. Let's open this one up. It's going to be a little bit closer to what y'all will have on hand. While this is loading, just be sure to pop any questions in there that you have so we can make sure to get them covered. Okay, so all the layers should transfer over from Photoshop. Okay, this is one that I've modified slightly, so I have a few more logos in here than what you'll have. Let me turn off those logos and put it back to Pyware. Okay, so for Endzone colors, what you can do is you can come over and change the color here. Let's see. Okay. What we will do is, let's say we have a red Endzone. Select my color layer. I can bucket fill that. Oh, undo. I want to make sure that I have that selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to box select this area. Okay, I'm going to bucket fill my color. Okay. Let's do it like this. Same thing for my right Endzone. Select my color here. Select my box selection tool. In all of these guides, when you use your box selection, it's going to snap to those guides. So we've got it lined out here so you can easily snap to different sections. Okay, let's say we have a white Endzone. Fill this area. May take a moment because this is a large file. Oh, could be because I have a few things. Gimp is not responding for me. There we go. Let's actually close these out. Free up a little more memory in Gimp. Okay. All right, I've got my color. Let's actually get that changed now. Come on now. Doug has a question on how accurate can you get with letters in the end zones. Depends on what you have. When I was building this Arizona state, they were able to send me the actual font that was created or used to create that. So I was able to type it directly in there and scale it accordingly. If you don't have access to that, what I have also done is gone on to Google Earth and locate your field, and you can actually take a picture of Google Earth. We can kind of go through that right quick. I'll show you how to do that. Okay. Or maps.google.com. Let's do that. Okay, let's look for Argyle High School in Argyle, Texas. Let's say we're making their, let's see here, Chrome tab, Google Maps. Okay, so we're going to go into satellite view. And what you can do is you can come in and zoom in and take a screenshot. Let's do this. So you can do print screen on um, Windows. There's a print screen button, and what that'll do is it'll copy it to your um, clipboard. If you're on Macintosh, I think the screenshot tool is Control Shift 4. I could be incorrect on that, but I believe it is Control Shift 4. And you're able to grab a screenshot, use your screenshot tool to grab that area. So let's say I've got my screenshot, or I did my print screen on since I'm on Windows. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, got my right Endzone, I'm going to paste this. Okay, so now I've got my screenshot here. So I can come in and shift this. Okay, and what I'll do is I'm just going to grab this, my box selection tool. I'm going to grab this section. I'm going to copy that and paste it into a new layer. Okay, I'm going to make that a new layer. I'm going to come back to my master image here. I'm going to copy this, paste it, and change that to a new layer. And then what I'm going to do is hide those. So now I have just my two sections. Okay, so now I'm going to come in and grab my rotation tool, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Okay, so we're good here. I can shift this into position. What I'm going to do is use my arrow key since I'm in my move tool and get a little fine tuning here. Grab my scale tool. I'm going to scale this up. Okay. Get this positioned like I want it. Looks like I need to do a little more scaling. Okay, again, get that position where I need it. Okay, so now we're getting that in the area we want. Okay, so now I have that in the location I want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my box selection tool. I'm going to let it snap to the grid here, or snap to the pathways. I'm sorry, the guides. I'm going to go to invert selection on that. Basically what I'm doing is I'm deleting any of that extra that I don't need. So now I have just the slice of red for my Argyle layer. This is for the right Endzone. Okay. Let's see, I don't want that. Turned off my surface. Okay. Argyle. Go. Okay. So now we have our Argyle piece here. Are there any questions on how to get something from Google or Maps? Command Shift 4 for the thing. Okay. Yes, Patty, Gimp is where you design all of these options. Okay. Any questions on creating a surface? I'm going to go ahead and toggle some of these things off here. So we can export this. Let's see here. All right. Our Spartans. Let's. We're going to export the Spartans. Layer. Okay, so we've got the texture that we want. I'm going to go ahead and choose to export. I'm going to save this as a JPEG. The surfaces. Okay. Surface. JPEG, JPG. Okay. I'm going to save this. While we're waiting to save that out. What type of props would you like to see? We have two ways of doing props, the standard prop and the performer prop. The standard prop will show up on your design view with an image that you can see on the design grid, and it's going to then show up in your real view as well. The performer prop will only show up as an outline on your design view, and it will show up as a full modeled prop in your design view. I'm sorry, in your real view. Okay. All right, so we have our file saved. Let's jump over to 3D right quick. I'm going to Document Options, going to Real View, select Choose on my surface. Okay. We've got our Spartan surface, so we save this out, Choose. Okay. And that is going to load that surface into the Real View, as you can see here. Okay, and you can toggle that. There's a button right here, just in the center. What it's going to do is it's going to toggle between your surface, your yard line view, which is your major division lines, and your yard line and subdivision line, which is your 4-step grid, the light blue grid. So you can toggle in between those easily. Okay. Let's jump back over to our Gimp. Save our changes. Okay. Well, we're waiting that to save. Let's say we want to make a image on our prop. So Pyware 3D, we're going to go to props. We're going to go to model or templates. Let's say we're going to work with a box, okay? And let's say we have a kind of a tall box that has different images on each side. So what we have is we have our guide here, and then we have a folder here that says put your images here or textures here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer here. We're going to use Versity box prop. Okay. There's our layered texture. Okay. So let's see here. I think I might have a couple of prop images. Let's see where they're at. Maybe not. Well, let's work with just generic colors then. What we'll do is on our right side, we're going to do our box selection, and to the right side, we're going to just select the area, and I'm going to fill that with a color. Let's say we're just going to go with the right side is going to be red, and again I have my layer selected here. Fill that. Okay. Say I'm going to go to my top option now. So on the top of the box, Okay, we can do our top, and let's make that black. Okay. And let's say the left side is also red, so let's repeat that here. Grab my box selection, fill in the area here. Black with my box. I'm sorry, no, that is going to be red. Let's make that red. Sorry. The left and right are going to be red. Let us say the front is going to be green. So just box selection here. Select that area. Fill this with a green. Let's find a darker green here. All right, and then our back, let's just make that a darker blue. Okay, fill that in. And I'm just going to leave the bottom of our box clear. All right, so I'm going to turn off my guides. So now what it looks like is I have my front green, back blue, top black, left and right are red. I'm going to do my export as a PNG. PNG. All right, export. And then let's jump back over to our 3D. And I'm going to put in a new performer for my performer prop. Select that person. Go to our visuals editor. Go to our performer prop. Do a shape. I'm going to choose a box. Say it is a 2 yards long, 2 yards wide by 3 yards tall. I'm going to select my prop image. I'm going to find my prop that we just created. I'm going to apply my changes, and now I have my box that has multiple different sides on it. And the same thing can be done with textures. If you have copies of those, you just paste those in by dragging them on there, just as we did with that M and the other tie-dye texture. And then you're able to scale those to that size. And so now we have a prop with all sides different colors. Were there any other questions that we have for tonight? Tried to cover all the different options inside of Gimp and cover any functionality that people might have questions on. So, all right. Well, if there's no other questions, I think we'll go ahead and sign off for tonight. It was wonderful having y'all here. Thank you for stopping by and coming to night school. We will have Craig Harms on Friday. He will be going over traditional tools. So be sure to stop on by for that masterclass with Craig Harms, and we'll go over the traditional tools 9 p.m. Central. Thank you very much, and y'all have a wonderful evening.